I want to also mention that we got to talk about the finances of the company, because Meltzer would write, while not a public company, TNA revenues increased tremendously over the past year, largely due to huge increases in merchandise sales, running a regular score of arena events, and more revenue from Spike due to it being the first full year with the show being 2 hours. TNA would appear to be more recession proof than WWE because of a high percentage of their revenue is fixed from Spike and less from overseas, where declining currency has taken a toll. Timeout. Now, that's Dave Meltzer saying that TNA is more recession proof. Now, he wrote that in 2009. But didn't my man just a handful of weeks ago say it was never profitable and lost money all the freaking time? Like, what's up with that? How can that be? How can they be more recession proof than WWE and increase tremendously, huge increases in merch sales and more revenue than ever because of Spike? What? Perhaps, maybe somebody forgot. Maybe. The Observer would continue. Still, the company is not immune from recent cost cutting, nor is almost any business at this point running less pay-per-view events on the road. Let's time out right there. I just want to give everybody a reminder of where the world was in 2009. We are just inside of a calendar year from the housing collapse here in America. And that brought around a lot of other pain in the economy, where we got stimulus packages like cash for clunkers. So if you had an old beat up turd of a car, you could get a big incentive on it if you go buy a new car. And there were all these different projects and initiatives and changes happening in the economy because the economy was on its ass here in America. So that's the reason Meltzer gave that qualifier. Nor is almost any business at this point in regard to being immune from cost cutting. He would continue. Running less pay-per-view events on the road, even though it is readily acknowledged the company looks more major league doing pay-per-views from arenas with larger crowds than from the impact zone. But evidently, not being able to draw well at the pay-per-view sites makes it more cost-effective in most cases to run Orlando. They also cut back on giving the Monday off after road pay-per-view shows, at least the last time, to save a day of costs. The cutbacks haven't been close to as severe as WWE. Now, wait a damn minute.
Get him fired up. Come on now.
Now, hang on now. I thought WWE was the most profitable company of all time, and TNA never made money. And now you're saying that the cost cutting is more severe in WWE than it is here. And that, in fact, TNA might be more recession proof. Huh? I do enjoy the idea that there's this revelation. You probably knew this all along. I understand from a look and feel perspective and the optics, running other arenas looks bigger, looks more major league. But at what costs? It costs too much is the reality. And if you're running a small business, you don't opt for that. And I know we don't talk about current stuff, but you and I both know there's a lot of tribalism that exists in wrestling today in 2024. And man, there's a lot of armchair quarterbacks out there who say, well, AEW shouldn't be running such big arenas. They should run smaller arenas. Here's the reality. Running an arena is running an arena. And I understand that there are rental costs that are different, but the major expense is just going on the road, period. If you really want a true alternative, a cost-cutting measure, then you just go to a soundstage and you do it every week. Like, I don't know, everyone else in wrestling history has done, right?
Yes. Bingo. Yes. Did you ask me a question? Because I don't want to miss it. Because the thing that, go ahead. Did you ask me a question?
No, I didn't ask you a question. I just wanted to point out, because I know you and I have traded text messages about this narrative that TNA never made money, and it's just not true. You were making money as soon as you got that. When you got 1 hour, it was great. But when you got the second hour, you've said it loud and proud on this show, you guys were made men. Now, that means there's a certain amount of top line revenue that you know is coming in. I don't mean to beat people over the head with this, but I understand there's a lot of people who aren't necessarily entrepreneurs and they've ever had to run a business or run a P&L. But said differently, let me say this. It's almost impossible to lose money if you know how much money you're going to make right up front. The idea is spend less, and then there's more profit. The end. Now, this opportunity exists because you're getting a rights fee from Spike, and you're getting 2 hours guaranteed. And so if the bulk of my money coming in is from this show, and it's this amount of money, spend less, and you'll make more. That's it, right?
And here's what, man, you got fired up, which kind of got me fired up because the whole narrative is just completely ridiculous. But we made a calculated decision. Let's try a few pay-per-views on the road.
Right.
Okay, we did. And then they wanted to try a few more because there was an internal discussion. Hey, it does look better. It is growing the brand. There was probably somebody on a mid-level at Spike that would say, hey, that looks really good, this and that. Well, there came a time when, I'm going to go back to Panda, Dallas, Bob Carter at the very top of that food chain that took the hard look, and they were much more in tune with WWE numbers than I ever was during this time frame. And you got to remember, Conrad, March of 2009, I just had a lunch meeting with a local businessman, Conrad, and he is from my community for years and years and years. I mean, he went to a sister high school and all this kind of stuff. And he started referencing 08 and 09. And Conrad, my eyes glazed over because during 08 and 09, I'll just say, yes, it's common knowledge within my inner circle. I was running hard both ways, family, partying, in business. It was where my life was at. So the outside world of the housing collapse and all of that stuff, I was numb to. Knowing the WWE numbers on a peripheral just because of the competition, but really digging into their live event business and looking at it, and Panda having comparables on as much as we could gather. And then, of course, we looked at pay-per-view year over year. Okay, this year we're in South Carolina, we're in Dallas, wherever we took our show on the road. And so you take a P&L from that event and then take one from the Impact Zone. Conrad, I mean, when I tell you it's not even remotely close, it's not even remotely close because it did not increase buys. And there were some shows, I'm sure I don't have any specifics, that the buys may be a little down. So not only did it not affect the buys, it just massively threw our expenses way up because of the fixed cost of the studio. So it was, and when we compared it to what WWE was doing on their pay-per-views, TVs, and then non-televised, they would break it out. It became very clear that's just a vanity project to go pursue putting something on the road, in a one-off here and there. And I think we always said, hey, let's try to do Slammiversary and Bound for Glory every year on the road, and maybe just Bound for Glory. But we knew the brand wasn't ready for that. And to kind of get into modern day stuff, you can look at as red hot as the WWE live event business is, and I'm not talking about non-television. I'm talking about Raws and SmackDowns. They're killing it, and the pay-per-views obviously are killing it. They're non-televised. They're not selling out every night. Are they rocking and rolling? Yes, all this, but the business in their world right now is at a peak. You look at us at AEW, Toronto last week, Coca-Cola Coliseum. It's, you got Raptors in one building and it's that market and everything. But I could not have been happier for Adam and Jay, Edge and Christian. I shouldn't say Edge. Anyway, Adam Copeland and Christian in their hometown. I quit match, but the building was sold out. So, it just kind of goes into, what you said, Conrad, the very basics of our industry. In 2009, it was a much better decision to take our pay-per-views in-house because it made our profits much, much more.
I mean, listen, in business, that's what it's all about. Like you're trying to spend less and net more. I mean, that's it. Yes, we're worried about top line gross, but if we're losing it all because of overhead, what does that matter?
Dumb.
You know, like when people brag about, oh, we had $1 million gate. Okay, what were the expenses? What were the hard costs? Like, you know, you file taxes on the net. You don't file taxes on the gross.
Hey,
Uh,
wow, that's a wise man. You file taxes on the net, pal.
I mean, that's what you're paying.
There
I
you
mean,
go.
like, who gives a shit what you had? You ain't got it now. Show me. Show me.